Once again, welcome to the Security Weekly News Wrap-Up for the week of 23 August 2020. MITRE, Cobalt, Sneak, CISOs behaving badly at Uber. Zoom says it's all better now, and Amazon AI wants you to send nudes for criticism. All this and more on the Security Weekly News Wrap-Up.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News. The question is simple. Have any of the systems on my network been compromised? The answer is harder than it should be. Enter AI Hunter. Active Countermeasures has automated and streamlined techniques used by the best pen testers and threat hunters in the industry to create AI Hunter, a network threat hunting solution that does the first pass of a hunt for you to identify systems that are most likely to be compromised and scores the results on a scale from 0 to 100. You can then research those systems in depth with AI Hunter. Focus your valuable time on the systems that need your expertise with AI Hunter. Sign up for a personal demo today at securityweekly.com/ACM.
Hello, I'm Doug White from Roger Williams University, your host, and welcome to the Security Weekly News Wrap-Up Show. First, we'll wrap up all the show topics for the week. On Application Security Weekly number 119, Mike, Matt, and John had an interview with Sundar Krish, the CEO and co-founder of SWN AI. The interview was about how AppSec products are mostly focused on large enterprises, but SWN AI is an AppSec scan tool that actually focuses on the mid-market, and it's really easy, apparently, to get started using. So you should check that out if you're interested in that kind of thing. On Business Security Weekly number 185, Paul, Jason, and Matt talked with Edward Amoroso, the CEO at Tag Cyber. Tag Cyber has the goal of democratizing cybersecurity research and advisory services. So, that's an interesting one. You should check that out. On Enterprise Security Weekly number 196, Matt and Paul had Quan Ling, the principal data scientist at Rapid7, and he was on to talk about their Under the Hoodie series on pen testing, which is they've been doing that for a while, and those are pretty interesting talks. This particular one looked at 12 months of data on the hows and whys of pen testing, with a focus on internal and external network compromises, as well as social engineering and red team simulations. So everyone's always interested in pen testing, and this is a good one to talk to with people from Rapid7. Another segment on that show was from Synopsys, and they brought Patrick Carey, the Director of Product Marketing, in to talk about building security into app development and how that's often overlooked as a part of the whole development process, something near and dear to my heart. Many of us have been preaching about that for a long time and getting a lot of pushback. And even today, of course, despite the fact that people know they should be doing that more, there's still a lot of pushback on adding steps and or review to the development process because, marketing is always promising things that developers can't quite deliver. And once we add security into the mix, that just frustrates the developers even more, but we need it. So definitely check that out. On Security Weekly News, number 59, Jason talked about how the CISO of Uber was basically paid off some hackers and passed it off as a bug bounty, and then, got arrested for it. That story was also discussed on Paul's Security Weekly last night, and I want to talk about that whole concept a little bit later in a rant for the week. On Security and Compliance Weekly number 40, Jeff, John, Josh, and Scott had another of their now famous/infamous two-part talks. You can never have a one-part talk with Scott there. I mean, there's just no way. And Jeff, and yeah, put that. That's going to take a while. But this one was titled "Pragmatic Approaches to Cybersecurity Maturity." That just kind of rhyme, huh? It was another great show with that crew, a real up-and-coming show on the network. I love to hear what they have to say about these things. Some sharp people there. On Paul's Security Weekly number 664, That's a large number. The news was up first last night because of two really nice pre-recorded sessions, but the whole gang, and they let me be there again, so we had a good time with the news. The first pre-recorded segment was a micro interview with Farah Mavatuna, the CEO at NetSparker, who's been on the show before and is always fun, and Paul Batista, who's also been on the show before, CEO at Polarity. The segment was a discussion about the difference in being thorough and getting the job done quickly, as well as dynamic application security testing, which is called DAST, if you are just getting into that realm of things. It's a great segment with two great guests, so it's definitely worth watching that one. I went home and watched it after they put it out later because I actually had to leave after the news last night. So the third segment last night was about predicting vulnerability. This one, I saw this. I was like, this is really cool, and you definitely should watch this. It was about predicting vulnerability in compiled code with Roy Cohen, the co-founder and vice president of sales at Vicarious, along with Shauna Reiner, a C++ developer at Vicarious. This was something I thought was really, really interesting, and I had actually thought about this in the past. You think about how much code has been written in the history of the world, and when we talk about data, well, code is a kind of data, and so it seems like you ought to be able to use that as predictors to try and spot likely vulnerabilities. I thought what a great idea. So you should definitely go check that out if you didn't catch it last night, so it was a lot of fun. My favorite threat of the week is going to have to be understanding legality in the modern age. This came out of the CISO at Uber story. Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't even play a lawyer on television or anything like that. But this story this week, you heard it on my news show on Tuesday. You heard it on Paul's Security Weekly last night. It may have been on some other shows. But the CSO of Uber, Joseph Sullivan, made some bad choices. Yep, they were pretty heinous in the end. Basically, Mr. Sullivan didn't disclose a PII breach of 57 million customers and drivers, despite California laws and other laws to the contrary that he was supposed to disclose this. Apparently what happened was he got notified about the breach by some hackers about 10 days after he testified about another breach at Uber in 2014, and they were advising him about this massive breach in 2016. So according to the rules, and there's numerous rules and laws about this, he was supposed to inform the breached, but he didn't do that. Instead of informing everybody and making a public announcement about this at Uber, he paid the hackers $100,000 in Bitcoins, and then he had them sign NDAs, so it's like, hi, I know you hacked us, but would you mind to sign an NDA about this? And they did, and it included them saying that no data was actually taken or stored, which apparently was a falsehood. He went on and then he lied to the CEO, allegedly, by editing the summary the security group prepared for the CEO. Yeah, I mean, it's just like one bad decision after another. Apparently, so he's facing charges of obstruction of justice and misprision of a felony. And if you don't know what misprision, I don't even know how to say it, but if you don't know what it is, it refers to criminal negligence in regards to someone else committing a crime. So you had a responsibility to report a crime being done, and you actually elected not to do that. So it's from English law, was what I looked up. My point is, and why this was a threat of the week, I kind of see how you get where he was. I really do. I mean, I see how you go down that horrible rabbit hole. I mean, you just testified about another breach at your job that you're responsible for, and you're the person. So all this is on you, and then here comes yet another breach. And I'm sure, and I didn't go read his testimony about that, but I'm sure in his testimony he's going, and we've taken care of this, and it's not going to happen again. Everything's in control. I'm in charge. It's all is well. All is well. Everybody just take a deep breath. And then boom, you walk back to your office, and some hacker calls you and says, "Oh, you think that breach you just talked about was bad? Let me tell you about what we did to you." He has the opportunity to maybe prevent more bad publicity, save some money by paying these guys off. and you get to keep your high-paying job because you don't want to call the CEO, right? We've all been there. At least I have been there. I think that moment when you think, oh, no, I have to call the president with some bad news. I've already given them bad news 3 times. Now I got to call them again. And, I remember having to call my boss's boss per protocol at 3 o'clock in the morning to tell them the mainframe crashed. Not sure why yet. And I know it's costing us a whole lot of money because every minute our mainframe was down cost us something like $8,000. But hopefully you'll let me fix the code before you fire me, kind of thing. I know I told you we weren't going to have any more problems like this, but yeah, we're having another problem like this. And you imagine that some friendly hackers offer to kind of let you off the hook by writing the whole thing up as a bug bounty. We'll sign an NDA, no harm, no foul. But then, oops, the hackers get caught. Now you're in jail. You're unemployed, trying to explain to Chet the cannibal, your cellmate, why, C pointers can lead to buffer overflows, and that's a bad thing, kind of like getting caught with a human rib cage, but in a different context sort of thing. And you need to ensure that you you need to ensure that you understand the legal ramifications of this stuff before you start covering over graves. I mean, really. Think about that a little bit. So the next time you're in that situation, think about, am I committing a crime here and I'm going to end up in jail with Rhett the cannibal as a cellmate? You bet. And now the news from all the shows. The Department of Justice in the United States announced they were planning to seize control of 280 or more cryptocurrency accounts under civil forfeiture laws. The Department of Justice claims the accounts were used by North Korea and China, involving moving around $250 million, which was being used to fund state-sponsored attacks. So 2 specific attacks were detailed in the complaint form from 2019, and said that the attacks were targeting virtual currency exchanges, and then particular targets were Proton tokens, play game tokens, and other gaming type currency tokens, which ultimately got converted to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And then they used chain hopping, which is essentially where you transfer Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies around a whole bunch of times to try and break the trail of funds so that you can hide this. A lot of issues here in terms of the promise of cryptocurrency being anonymous, the ability to launder money, and all these kind of things. So a fairly interesting story that just came out this morning. So you may want to check that out. A Russian national, Igor Igorovich Kryuchkov, was arrested for trying to recruit an employee to plant malware inside the employee's company in Nevada. I think this story underscores an interesting old idea about espionage. So we talked about this on Security Weekly last night. When I first worked for this government lab, we got sent to all this training about espionage tactics and how people were going to approach us in bars and country clubs and all these kind of things. And this is an old approach, that they're using here, which is basically taking cold hard cash and offering it to some underpaid employee and saying, hey, would you like to make a quick $100,000? All you have to do is the following. I think this is an increasing danger to all companies, so not just government organizations, but to all companies, as it may be not only an avenue to acquire information, but it may be an attempt to get into networks that are connected to other networks. Nation states have a lot of money available to them. And you'll start finding those people that could use an extra 100,000 or so just to plug a hard drive in or to plug in a flash drive or whatever while they're sweeping up at night, and you will find someone. So it may be time for all companies to start thinking about anti-espionage training as nation states are starting to get into this game seriously, and we aren't sure exactly where they're focusing. So the vending machine company that services the power supply or the power generating plant may actually be the target now. Up to 200,000 patient records from Office 365 and Google G Suite were exposed on the internet due to the fact that hard-coded credentials were contained within GitHub repositories. That's just... We've all hard-coded credentials. If you've ever written code in development, you have probably hard-coded credentials because, that used to be the standard tactic, was you put your SQL queries into your C++ program, and it was hard-coded because that was just how you did it. And unfortunately, that's starting to become a real problem as code becomes more public. A Dutch researcher, Gel Usum, found the files, and he tried to notify, at least he said he tried to notify the companies about the code, but they apparently did not reply or respond to him. So he reported the findings to databreaches.net, and they published a paper together on this matter. Please don't hard code credentials, even if it's internal only, because who knows where that code's going to end up. I've done it, you've done it, all the mainframers did it, but today somebody eventually is going to post that code somewhere, or somebody's going to get hold of that code and they're going to put it up somewhere on the internet, and then boom, those credentials get out, and that is a nightmare for companies. And if you do that and you get caught, you better make sure you report it, or you'll end up like Uber. Zoom says it has fixed the issues that caused pretty much full outages on Monday morning, which was the beginning of the school year for a lot of different people who were online, who were using Zoom to do class. And this happened at 8 a.m. or it happened at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So that was about the worst possible time that this could have happened for Zoom. They've had other problems in the past, online schools now crashing. Zoom, I don't know if you know this, but Zoom has gone up to around 300 million users this year. It is probably the most popular platform despite other alternatives. The 3-hour outage was a result of an internal application error that prevented logins. But, when you got 300 million customers, a 3-hour outage on the first day of school for a lot of people who aren't really that comfortable with technology in the first place, big deal. Zoom did apologize. They sent an apology to all Zoom accounts. I got one in the email, and then they have continued to apologize throughout the week. They now say that it is fixed, and they are monitoring it, which, what else are you going to say? Sneak identified a malicious behavior in an advertising SDK, which is used by over 1,200 applications in the Apple App Store. That represents roughly 300 million downloads a month, was what they said, based on some kind of estimate. Sneak dubbed the code SourMint, which is a really nasty name if you start thinking about it. I was like, ooh, if it was called Moist SourMint, it would be even worse. But SourMint is pretty bad when you think about it a little bit. It sounds like one of those strange things that you get to eat somewhere, and they go, it's sour mint flavor, and you go, I'll try it, and then you really regret that, or some new brand of like cola or something. Sour mint flavor. It actually sounds like an energy drink, right? Like sour mint, double plus caffeine. Yeah, and then you wonder why you bought it. This code can spy on user activity. It can log URL requests made by the app. And it also, all of this can, of course, include personal information about the user and other sensitive data, including hardware and software information about the device. The SDK itself is called Mintegral. So this is a developing story. It's obviously of concern and in privacy, so it's something, if you're involved in that, you may want to check out. Cobalt.io secured $29 million in Series B funding to continue building out the Cobalt platform, which can be used to test for software vulnerabilities in the development process. So we were talking about this earlier. Here it is again. This startup only started fundraising earlier this year, and there's a lot of interest in this company because they have essentially taken a pen testing platform and try to incorporate the activities that pen testers normally do into their platform so that you can run an automated type pen test against your code that's in development to try to identify all the problems. So the ability to automate and standardize tasks that professional pen testers are doing when they work really allows you to direct that at your own software without having to go out and recruit and retain and spend a lot of money on pen testers. So pen testers may not like this product too much. I'm sure there are extreme limitations. I would far rather have a really skilled pen tester, but not everyone can afford to do that. It's definitely a product to keep your eye on, and apparently a lot of investment people are interested in it as well. I did want to reiterate the warning from CISA and the FBI about backdoors being installed in Chinese VAT software. This is the product that's required in the People's Republic of China in order to do business there, because you have to calculate these VAT taxes and pay them. There was an earlier warning about this that was issued, and a new flash alert has now come out about the fact that that it does contain a backdoor Trojan called Golden Spy, which is probably a fork of another backdoor Trojan called Golden Helper. But the new flash traffic was about that Golden Spy malware is much more sophisticated than they first thought, and it is very likely able to shift and obfuscate itself so that it looks like you removed it, but you didn't actually remove it. So if you are using that software, you definitely want to read up on this flash traffic. MITRE released the active defense matrix this week. This new matrix is called the Shield, and it's another grid a la, attack or their other matrices. This time they focused on threat behavior with a long list of activities underneath the column headers, which allows you to understand how to defend against these actions. So you can sort of cross-reference and find defenses that you might want to put in place to do this. It's definitely worth taking a look at. I like it. I haven't fully fleshed it out and gone through it all, but I do think it may help you be better able to figure out kill chain defenses that will let you stop these threat vectors if you're concerned about them or you're already dealing with them in your enterprise. And finally, Amazon has a creepy new device. Sorry, Amazon. It's called the Halo Band. It's a wearable health gadget a la Fitbit type stuff. So this is nothing new, and it's not even that strange to see people wearing wearable health gadgets. I mean, it's kind of an interesting idea. You wear something on your wrist, it monitors your heart rate and all these kind of things. Probably going to see more of those in the future with people needing to know their temperature at any given time. I know you have to get your temperature checked a lot of places when you go through the door, so, having that kind of stuff in place. But this one's, it's kind of strange. Apparently, what it does is it uses an AI that evaluates a photo of your body. So you take a photo of yourself, and it says you can wear tight clothes. So, I had already sent in all my nudes, and they're like, they're like, don't do that. No, don't send that. Thank you. The AI is now really off, have to be rebooted after seeing that. But from these photos, it estimates your body fat percentage. And then it puts a picture up on your phone that shows you what your fat body kind of looks like, which is not apparently your actual body. It's like another image of your body that the AI generated. And it allows you to use a slider to show how you might look if you lost weight. And I kind of remember what I looked like when I was thin, but, okay. But that's not really the weird part. The weird part is, no, that's not the weird part. The weird part is it records you talking off of your device. So it is now listening to you, and the AI analyzes your energy and positivity. I really get low scores there usually, like low energy, low positivity, extreme cynicism. But it's based on your tone. And wow, we're off to the races of security problems. I don't even know how much is wrong with this, but maybe a lot. I mean, how good is the AI, for one thing? They claim the pictures are deleted. Okay. So after analysis, and like if you've ever used mTailor or some of those, and I actually have used mTailor, and you take like a 360 picture of yourself and send it to them, and it really works. Their AI then comes up with all your measurements, and it makes really good clothes. I mean, just a quick plug for them. But basically, they say that after they're analyzed, they're deleted off the cloud system. So that Amazon has these pictures. I mean, I don't really care if people have pictures of my body. People beg me for those all the time, and whatever. But, it's the usual thing. So whose pictures are there? Are they really deleted? Who's got access to them? When, celebrities and people try this, are those pictures going to be desired? But anyway, you want Skynet? You want a Skynet that gives you the stink eye because you ate that extra taco last night. This is how you get Skynets that give you the stink eye for your condescending tone and that extra taco that you ate last night before Security Weekly. And that's the news wrap up for the week of 23 August 2020 in the time of plague. I'm Doug White from the RD Online Cybersecurity Program at Roger Williams University, and I'll see you next week on the network that never sleeps, Security Weekly. Hang in there.